Hello, everyone. Great to be here with you. I am Scott Brinker. I am the editor of chiefmartech.com. I'm also the VP of Platform Ecosystem at HubSpot. And I am really excited here to talk with an incredible set of MarTech superstars here to wrap our heads around the metaverse. What is it? And how do we prepare for it? So I'll actually let each of my guests, Chris, Lynne, and Assaf, introduce themselves and their company. Chris, you want to start?
Sure. Thanks for having me, first of all, and good to see you. So I'm Chris Savage. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Wistia. Wistia is a video platform for marketers, so tools to help you present, make, publish, analyze the videos that you're making on your site, see the impact, all that kind of good jazz. Big fan of the metaverse. Excited to be here chatting about it. I mean, especially because I feel like everyone has their own view of what it is even going to be. And so it's what will it be? And then how will it impact us? So excited to be here with all of you to chat about it.
Great, welcome. Lynne.
Hey, Scott, thanks for having me. I'm Lynne Capozzi. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer at Acquia. We are the digital experience company, so we help people be successful with their digital properties, everything from running their websites to running all kinds of marketing tools to help their interactions with their customers be successful. And I'm excited to talk about the metaverse today.
Awesome. And last but definitely not least, Assaf.
Okay, so I'll do it again. I'm Assaf. I'm still a co-founder of Persado. Persado is a motivation AI platform, so enables personalized communication at scale. You can think of it as a combination of a bespoke GPT-3 capability for the enterprise coupled with decisioning. So you can essentially generate the best words to convey your ideas and motivate people to act immediately. It can be to get a savings account, to try or buy a new dress, or even get a flu shot. Today, companies communicate on digital channels with words, phrases, and the concept they convey. We generate that to maximize the impact of those words. And the metaverse, we'll talk about the metaverse soon.
All right. Well, actually, let's start with you then, because I guess the first question is what the heck is the metaverse?
So I'll give the dry definition. It's a virtual reality where people can interact with other people and with computer-generated environments. It's supposed to be also persistent, such that if you're not in the metaverse, it still exists without you. So that's my dry definition of the metaverse. And I'll say one more word. In my mind, the metaverse exists today, and it exists in the context of companies such as Fortnite or World of Warcraft or Roblox and some others that we can talk about, because they emulate that in the gaming space with gaming experiences. So if somebody wanted to think a bit about what is an example of a metaverse but not fully immersive yet, is those platforms.
Lynne, would you agree with that? Anything you would add?
Yeah, I would agree. I think for me, kind of when I think about the definition, is kind of like the digital embodiment of of all the experience. So for me, it's a lot about content. It's a lot about how people are going to interact with content, personalized experiences, and so I kind of think of it that way. It's all about kind of what that content interaction is going to look like.
And Chris, you've definitely built a whole company around content and people interacting, but what does that look like for the metaverse? What is the metaverse version?
Yeah, I mean, I think, there's the Mark Zuckerberg metaverse, which is his virtual reality land that you go to, right? And then there is the metaverse that Assaf is talking about, which is this idea of it can be in this persistent reality where people are communicating with each other, and it actually already exists. And I think that is the case. And I think, Fortnite is a good example. I think Discord is another one, where there's these worlds where people are going in and they don't necessarily use their regular name, although they might, and they have another reality in which they're talking with folks. And so in some respects, the metaverse is already here. In many respects, in a VR perspective, it's kind of not, right? Like we don't have this one persistent world that we all go into. But I do think that there are a lot of things, as someone who's played around a lot with VR. For example, we gave everyone at Wistia Oculuses. And we did that as a way to try, like, hey, can we connect with each other differently? And so we actually currently have like a mini golf tournament that is happening, this great game, Walkabout Mini Golf, across the company, and people get together and they play and they hang out, and you have like a sense of presence. And for me, it's like, wow, that is a really fun, cool thing. Am I going to do that all day, every day? No. Am I going to do that sometimes? Yes. Am I going to add on to that? Like, do sometimes I want to watch content, or sometimes I want to read, or sometimes I want to listen? Yes, I think so. So I kind of look at it as like, it's like a fourth channel of how to communicate with folks online. And not everything is going to make sense in the VR version of this, but some things really will. Some experiences will be much better there. And I think it's going to become, this is not tomorrow, but I think it's going to become a place that people have to pay attention to, and that some of your customers and some of your audience is going to spend time in, and you're going to have to match like what's the content and the experience that matches to a place where you have like a virtual reality presence.
So if we think about the metaverse, and pretty much all of you are saying, okay, well, some incarnation of this already exists today, but there's maybe a couple dimensions. Like today, it's largely around this 2D interaction that people are having through a computer screen, and it's mostly in the context of games like Fortnite and Roblox. And then there's these sort of two possible dimensions on which we see it growing. One is, through things like VR headsets and actually making these experiences more immersive. And then perhaps the other dimension of this is the use cases going beyond what's primarily been a gaming experience to other possible applications. What's sort of your take on each of those? Like from just a hardware perspective, like how far are we off from like people actually wanting to wear devices or use devices that create a more 3D immersive experience?
We are relatively far from my perspective. First of all, the willingness to put a device and stay within a device, even if it gives you this potential experience, the experience is not there sufficiently good, I think, to drive this behavior of locking yourself from the real world for an extensive amount of time. If you think about the 2D path, you have over 1 billion players today that are interacting with these 2D environments, and only a small fraction of that actually uses Oculus and others and other devices to experience some level of immersive experiences. So in terms of timing, I think we are relatively far. In terms of server capabilities, we are also far from enabling thousands or tens of thousands of people to be in the same instance with a complete immersive experience that needs to compute your location, where you look at your behavior in the space. I think that is also not there yet from a, as you call it, hardware perspective. And there is another aspect, the last aspect that is very important in my mind is it is actually becoming a multiverse, not a metaverse. So you have the gaming companies, you have Meta, who is, I don't know exactly what they're developing, but we can talk about that. You have the Bored Ape Yacht Club, for example, who just raised 440 million to build Other Side, which is another metaverse. So it's a multiverse, and if it's a multiverse, it's like before Android and Apple. You have multiple platforms where you need to be compatible with, and this is another limitation of adoption, in my mind at least, of this immersive experience, because it's more complex. You need to essentially be compatible with all of them somehow. So anyway, just thoughts.
Yeah,
I feel like I need to like brush up on my like Marvel Cinematic Universe knowledge to be able to talk. Yes, we are actually entering the multiverse here.
We are. It's for now. It's driven by obviously commercial activities, and each one wants to take a piece, and they build their own places, but it's not persistent. I may have an avatar. I cannot go from one world to another, for example. If I am a brand and I need to build something, an experience in one platform, I will need to build it on multiple or bet on one of them. That's how I see it. So.
Well, like Lynn, in your role, with the digital experience platform of Acquia, like where do you see we are on that like curve of like current metaverse type content that people are delivering to their audience, through a platform like yours, and sort of, when should we expect that to start to lean into more of these, immersive experiences that might require some special hardware from, the participant?
Yeah, so I have a couple of thoughts on that. I mean, we're obviously all about building great digital experiences and getting the best personalized content that's available, right? So it makes the best customer experience possible. How far away are we? I don't know, probably a couple of years. But I will say that it's all about, we're there though, because we want to make the best experience possible. And that means that it's going to be another channel for us. I think of it as another channel. And so we're going to need to figure out how do we integrate that? How do we get that 3D content in? And I think that's definitely going to be possible, but we're already thinking about it and, trying to get there. The other thing I will add is, in addition to the tech, people need to be willing, right? And we're not too far away from the majority of the workforce being millennials. And you know what? They're ready. They are ready in this immersive type of environment. And so I see people more and more and more like adapting to the millennials, and we will all need to do that as marketers, definitely.
So what about like the use cases here? So gaming feels like just an obvious one. That's a lot of what we're doing today. There do seem like there are certainly other specialist use cases when we think about like AR and VR, but like actually making a true immersive experience. Maybe you have sort of examples or places where you see this like emerging over the next year.
I think that the place that's going to come, emerging over the next year, let's say we're using the existing tech we know about, right? I have actually, this may be shocking, I have actually spent time working with people in the metaverse. Where instead of just being on a Zoom, like working on a document or something, we like got together in a room and had meetings and made decisions. And I think that the most likely thing is like where people are looking for a creative avenue to do something different, where like, in person you would go do an activity and with your team, and that would have you end up like, building different connections with each other and hopefully creating more creative ideas coming out of that. I think that's the thing that's going to happen now. It's the same reason that people go golfing together. It's the same reason that people play video games together. It's the same reason that people play ping pong. Like, you do these other things and it forges a different type of connection. I think that's already happening. I think that the big question is, when is the tech so persistent that it doesn't feel weird to do, right? Like, it feels weird to put the headset on, unless you're getting a lot of benefit from it, but you don't want to probably do it at the office. It's different if you're at home. And I don't think we've seen the iPhone version of this yet, right? Like, that's what I think about a lot. Like, pre-iPhone, there was a ton of different cell phones. They worked in different ways. There wasn't one, like, there was like PDAs. There wasn't a real smartphone that like changed the game. And it seems like the killer tech here is like persistent augmented reality that's built into something that's like lightweight that you want to continue to wear. And I think when that happens, it changes everything. But when is that going to happen? What do they say? It's like usually easy to overestimate the next 5 years and underestimate the next 10. So I'll go with 10 years is when it's going to happen. But I think that without that, you're not going to have it used all the time.
Cool. Would you actually be willing to share a little bit more about the experience where you're using this in a meeting, in a conference room, like a little bit about like the tech that was used, what that experience was like? Because I think kind of in this like, remote/hybrid new world, we're actually trying to figure out really good ways to have that kind of engagement. We'd love to just hear a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so I mean, for me, it's like, we at Wistia were predominantly in person before. We're now very remote. We were 90% in Boston. We're only 50% in Boston now. And that's just because we've hired a lot and grown a lot. And what I've done is I've tried to use different ways of communicating with people. So I use the phone more now, and we'll go on like walking phone meetings instead of just being on Zoom. And one of the other things we've done is taken the Quest, the Oculus Quest, and use that for some meetings and events. And so there's a product called Horizon Workrooms, which is released by Meta. But basically, you're in a conference room, and you can have, probably like 12 people in there. Everyone puts on a headset, you authenticate your computer, and you can actually see in that experience, you can see your keyboard and you can see your trackpad or your mouse. So you're in VR and you can just sit there and type on the computer. But what we've done is it's actually been more like planning for big meetings and all hands and stuff like that, where we're like trying to come up with like, what are all the different stories we need to tell? What's the order that we need to do this in? And we used to just do that type of thing in person in a conference room. It was much easier than doing it remotely. And also, you sometimes get bored or tired of just like sitting in the same spot. And in this world, one person's on a computer and they're projecting up, and another person's up at a whiteboard and they're drawing stuff. And so it's closer to the real thing. And I don't do that I don't do that every day, but I do that sometimes, because I found that it's just like being in a different, it's like the third place, right? Like, the idea of like what Starbucks was, which is like you're at work or you're at home, but that transition actually was like really helpful for people. And a lot of people like to work in coffee shops for that reason. It's like a third place. I see like this as just another different way of working. So it's like you're at home, but you're not at home, or you're at the office, but you're not at the office. It's like, it's another option, which can help forge like creativity and different form of collaboration.
Cool. So let me double click here a bit on use cases, because I'll put a hypothesis that there may be three buckets we could look at. So one is these existing metaverses where brands would want to participate, at the very least, as some sort of branding and marketing opportunity, potentially as a commerce channel, things like that. There's maybe a second bucket of the sort of things that you were just talking about, Chris, where we're actually using this metaverse technology to, just change the way in which, we work and we collaborate. What about a third bucket of, as a brand starts to think about how it participates in the metaverse, how it engages its customers? Well, is there a third bucket? And, what do you think that might be over this next, 2 to 3 year horizon?
I'll jump in. I think I'm not sure if it's a third bucket, potentially. Chris talked a lot about kind of internal use, right? Meetings and collaboration, but imagine what it opens up for events with customers, right? You really could have a very engaging type of event where people are much more engaged than what we're doing today, of just, potentially just sitting on a Zoom and it's a one way. And so I think the whole category of events would be huge in terms of integrating. The other one that comes to mind for me is a lot about kind of employee training. So really being able to engage, in any kind of training, whether it's on the manufacturing floor or whatever the industry is. So those are kind of a couple of things that come to mind for me, is the whole events and employee training.
Cool.
Not sure it qualifies as a separate category, but definitely I think those are use cases that come to mind for me.
I just called Adam Neumann to open WeWork virtual to try to make it again, so we can create another big work environment that people pay for. But education is another one. If we talk about the same category of being in a venue to exchange, maybe a bit more futuristic. I don't know, but so in my mind, the idea of a metaverse to hang out is not very smart. You have to really create experiences. So if I talk about jobs that relate to that, storytelling and creating an event. A game is an event, of course. You go in and you do stuff with people. For brands, if the metaverse evolves as we may think it will, I don't know, you may be, Bumble, a dating app, and you can have people meet in the metaverse and have them do things, or play, or I'm sorry, I'm not doing it the same.
Just my mind. Okay. Sorry.
So they meet in the metaverse. They exchange, of course, information. They go and do tasks, games. They may be even monetizing by directing the date to an AMC theater that is in the metaverse to watch a movie. And as they do that, they can get closer together. So it may be Nike who puts a place where you can design shoes, and while you do that, you earn Nike coins, because Metaverse today, by the way, is very connected to blockchain and cryptocurrency. So the company I mentioned before that raised money for the other side, essentially is to create an environment where you can exchange digital goods. So let's assume that you're Nike and you build that and you let people do something, so create. And while they do that, they earn Nike coins. And with these Nike coins, they can go into the real world and do something with it. So that's an experience. I don't know if it's another category, but this is, I think, how brands should think about it. Just to be there, to see your name, is uninteresting. Because I go to interact.
And people are
with
looking
things.
for experiences. I think that's what you're saying too. Like the people who are going to try it now are looking.
Absolutely. They don't go just to sit there and hang out. You need to accomplish something in a meeting. He needs to play a game and win with other people. They need to do something, and you need to take them on this journey. And this is a big opportunity, not very easy to implement potentially, but a big opportunity. Also commercially, to match it, I think, with the world of blockchain. So there is another company called D-Market, which is a Ukrainian company. So they sell skins. You can buy and sell skins with cryptocurrency for avatars, essentially, for the metaverse. But if you, they have another capability where by watching or doing certain things, like esports, you get coins from the company as loyalty coins, okay? So imagine your loyalty program is, I go and I do something, but I earn something while doing it. And of course, I earn it virtually, and then I can either use it in the world or outside. And the last example would be, I think so if you take all the items in this, in the company, the app Yacht Club, and you sell all the items there, they are worth $3 billion today, okay? The most expensive one, it's an image of a monkey, okay, was sold for $2.3 million. So imagine you are, I don't know, Dolce Gabbana, and you created a limited edition of virtual fashion, and that is NFT, so it's a non-fungible token, and in the metaverse you monetize that and allow people to exchange that or essentially make money out of that.
This is how we could do like a whole session, like the metaverse from an experience perspective, and then cryptocurrency as a currency or multiple currencies of it, and how we think about monetizing that. Whew. We could go deep down that, but let me pull this back just for a moment from an experience perspective.
I think that Chris said it correctly. It's creating experiences in the metaverse will be critical for brands, what they do. There are many ideas probably, and the monetization aspect today, at least, is very intricately attached to blockchain and
I think
transactions.
it's interesting because like anyone who's deep in crypto, that is what the metaverse is for them. But if you just go talk to VR people, they don't necessarily care at all about crypto. And so that there's like all these different perceptions on like what this is going to be, which I think is interesting. I think one thing you're hearing from all of us though is that like the people who are either in VR or in crypto, they're early adopters effectively. And so what you can do if you think that you need to get early adopters as a part of your customer base, creating custom experiences for those people in the near term. Like if you were to have a version of HubSpot, for example, the HubSpot Inbound that was in VR, you better believe that anyone who cares about HubSpot and anyone who has a VR headset, they're going to go check it out because there's nothing else like it, right? In 5 years, I would bet there's going to be a lot more, and it's not going to be just the novelty of it. It's going to have the quality of the content is going to have to be as good as it is and personal as other things. But today, if you gave people a space to like walk around it and had that connection, they would spend time in it and they would do it. And I think it's this experience for people who are very early, and it's going to be expensive. But the upside is like if you can make something there that actually connects, you can build a form of community that was really not possible before.
The community aspect is very important, actually, because you are building a community there, at least with the early adopters. They really love
both ways, right? Like if it's crypto, the people have a stake in it. And if it's just like you're actually spending time walking around, like I love your Bumble example, because like nothing like that exists. But if there was like a VR dating app, that by itself would probably be something that everyone would pay attention to. And be like, well, is it better to meet in person than just like to swipe left or right on somebody? And I don't know, but like I would be interested to see what would happen if that existed.
There's going to be a ton of these like within the next 12 months. I will bet on that. All right, well, let me pull back because I know we're running short on time, but a couple questions I'm really curious about. One is for brands at this stage, like how do they start to develop the skill set for this? I feel like, Chris, what you've been doing with your team of, well, let's just give everyone headsets and like, let's start to experiment with this. Feels like actually a good start. Curious, Lynne, like, what would you see as recommendations for people to get started? We still have you, Lynne?
Yeah, I'll let Chris go. Chris, you want to go first?
I can, but I mean,
all right, go for it.
Yeah, I mean, I think our intention of giving people the Oculuses was like, let's try to do something fun. Who knows if this is going to be valuable? Let's just see if people if people have it and they spend time together, what will happen? And what I would say is that there's like a lot of people who were doubters who were like, wow, this is more fun than I expected, but then they never used it again. And then there was a bunch of people who were doubters who were like, oh, actually, this is really fun. And it does, of course, anytime you use something new, it gives you, your brain just starts asking itself, like, what can I do this? What can I do with this? What different thing can I do? And so we don't have a specific like metaverse strategy that has been outlined that says these are all the NFTs we're going to launch and this is the VR experiences we're going to create. But we're trying to keep our minds open to the opportunities that come up because of this. And I mean, also, I think it's just like anything, like if you like learning, this is a great time to pay attention and try to sort through this stuff and like figure out what is real and what is not, what's going to be valuable and what is not. And so I think just giving people permission to do that is like the most important thing, like giving them time, permission to explore. And I do think it's a very wide array of things changing at once. And yet, like, if you're not looking at them, you can't see it, right? Like, you can't see the VR without putting the goggles on. And actually, stay on the NFT thing. You can't see that stuff unless you dig in to those communities and go into those discords and see this like insane, vibrant conversation that's happening of all these people trying to learn. And so, I think it's just giving people the space and time to do it. And then, if the right opportunities present themselves, giving yourself the permission to go after it.
I think that's a really important point about, giving people permission. I think marketers need to be open-minded about it. And I think so many people now are thinking they have the gaming blinders on. They're only thinking gaming. And so I think, being open to it and being, thinking about that. And as we get to see more, metaverse like development tools that come out, I think being also that the other thing to kind of keep in mind is as those tools come out, making sure that you're thinking about interoperability and making sure that you don't get locked in when these development tools come out, like carefully looking at them. But I think I'm right on with Chris in terms of just giving people permission to say, keep an open mind, look at it, be thinking about it. Like I'm thinking about it as an additional new channel for us. And that's what I would encourage everyone to be thinking about.
So actually you bring up the tech piece there and seeing, as this is where my nerdy field of interest goes into overdrive. The technology for this, like, is this an expansion of new technologies that marketers are going to have to figure out how to fit into their stack? How much of it is like the integration of these technologies into existing tools and platforms like yours? What does the Metaverse Martech stack look like?
Well, I don't think there is one today, at least from my knowledge. If a company wanted to dabble in it, they will need to hire some kind of a metaverse planner, first of all, to choose the environment they want to be in. there is the aspect of 3D and 3D animation that is different. So the designing aspect of an experience that is in 3D would be important, and whatever the tools out there. But in terms of a marketing stack, they will need to figure out themselves, I think, today at least, unless HubSpot is in it and providing access. But even HubSpot will need to decide if they wanted to go with other side or Meta or some other platform, because each and one of them will have their own APIs and their own interfaces and their own potentially building tools to create within their world. So it's quite fragmented today, which is tough. And you, for your previous questions, if beyond the time that to think about it across the company for ideas, if somebody wanted to get into it, I don't know, I'm Banana Republic and I want to see what do I do with the metaverse, I will have somebody actually explore the different worlds and match it to my overall strategy. Where do I want to be? Where are my customers? Where are my potential customers? Who I want to cater to, and then go into that. But yeah, that's my view at least.
So like from a technology perspective, like even if we think about it today and the kinds of metaverse experiences that are in play today, right? There's a set of tools for the creators, whether it's, I guess, both from a VR, 3D perspective, but also, yeah, I mean, just even like NFTs, and choice of, NFT platforms. I guess increasingly as we think about using these existing metaverses as channels, and just how do we engage in those? How do we do things like the measurement, of engagement or attribution, or, all those fun things that as marketers we.
It seems like.
Yeah, the attribution, if you have NFTs, will be easy, but the selection of the, I think that it's the fact that you have opportunities today to try. So you can try. If you're a company that wants to try, you can. It can be on other side or elements of Meta or some other, I don't know, NFT community or Roblox for that matter, to promote, to see what happens and learn. Because this is, if you learn over the next 12 months, there won't be a completely immersive experience with VR in the next 12 months. I think we agree on that. But you can at least experiment on what type of experiences engage your customers as a brand within current platforms. So it's something that brands can do today if they chose to. I mean, you can do crazy things in Fortnite if you have the right commercial agreements with Fortnite. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think a lot of this is just like, well, how are you going to get customers? And they're like, people will sign up and they'll give you their email address and the location of, if you're B2B like most of us. I don't think that's changing. So I think it's just how will, if you're doing virtual events, like how many people are at these events and how do you incentivize them to register and mapping it together? And like, I mean, there's a totally new infrastructure that will need to be built, but it will have to be interoperable with the existing things. So I think that is what will happen. We'll see lots of bridges. We'll see lots of new companies form. I mean, there's a huge amount of opportunity, but also like until enough people have the headsets and they're cheap enough and easy enough and light enough and not embarrassed, and people don't feel embarrassed putting them on, it's not going to be this like super mainstream thing. Everyone will know about it just like we do now, right? We're having this conversation and I think we're early, which is exciting. And there's a huge amount of opportunity. And I think the big question is like, when does this change? Like, when does it change to become so easy and fun that people actually want to do it? And what is the catalyst that creates the change? And I think we don't. If we knew, it would be obvious, but I don't think we know what will be that catalyst.
But I think brands. So this is if you think about the metaverse as the end experience of full virtual reality and all that. I do think that brands have today an opportunity to make a fair amount of money, at least on the B2C side.
The B2C side, like especially fashion and stuff, like they're going to be missing out if they don't do it.
With the emergence of NFTs and all that, it's a big opportunity for them today.
Yes.
Now they can try other things. B2B, I don't know. I need to meet the CEOs of the top 50 banks in the US. I'm not sure where I will find them. Maybe on Roblox with their kids. I don't know. But
All right. Well, listen, as we're coming towards the end, I wonder, yeah, boy, I mean, we've been talking about a lot of the upside and the excitement of what we think this metaverse evolution can bring. I guess I feel I'd be remiss if I didn't also ask, like, are there concerns? Like, what are some of the risks or challenges, or what scares you about, suddenly leaping into this new environment?
Well, I'll start. I think, I don't know about it, I'm not sure how scary it is, but the thing that we all need to be worried about and thinking about is privacy, right? And so that, I think, is the area that probably would be of most concern to me, to make sure that, privacy is protected. Are we going to have more fraud? Probably, right, in that environment. So I think, privacy is probably the biggest concern for me that I would think about.
I just, not as Persado necessarily, but as a person who plays sometimes games and all that, it doesn't feel like it's evolving to become a next frontier of human evolution. It feels like it's evolving to become a place of for spending money. So I don't know. Meta issued a patent around tracking your movement, so they can direct targeted ads at you in a 3D environment. So that's what I wouldn't say scare me, but makes me think, what's the whole point? If it's really another channel for companies to make money, and I'm saying it as a citizen of the world, then it's not as enticing as it can be. Beyond the security, privacy, moderation, we are unable to do moderation in a 2D environment. How would you do that in a 3D environment? Where it's not just what you say or write, but how you move. How do you moderate that? With what, visual technology? If I acted like Will Smith in the Oscars in a virtual world, what happens then? Does somebody look at me and says you shouldn't? And I'm sorry, I'm Israeli. I'm very direct in my humor, as you can hear. But and who is that guy that moderates then? Who are they? Who does it belong to?
Well, I mean, if you go in, I don't know if anyone's used Rec Room. You know that one?
Which one?
Rec Room.
No, I heard of it.
Rec Room is it's like its own metaverse kind of that you get into, and then you can see other people walking around in the space you're in. There's all these little games you can play, but if you're close to someone, you can just talk to them. And if you go in there, people are just screaming at you. It's utter chaos, and you can mute them. So there's a person come up and they're talking, and then you just click on their head and you mute, and then they're just you see a mouth going and there's just no sound. And that's the answer for moderation. But before you mute someone, it can be chaotic and crazy. And to me, I feel like it does embody the challenge and downside is this is going to be, it's risky in terms of your time, and it's risky in terms of expense, right? If you want to create your own immersive VR thing, or you want to make your own NFT project that is actually valuable, you're going to spend a fair amount of money on this, and it's high risk. And I think that is most people are going to waste money and time on this in the near term. There will be, I would imagine, some experiences that can be created that are so unique and so genuine and so aligned with the brand that they can really further the brand, and they can really take you forward. But I think the risk is any risk with something new, which is there's high potential for distraction and high potential for large expense.
And abuse also. I mean, you
abuse,
mentioned
totally.
being next to somebody.
There's no moderation systems. All that stuff does not exist yet because it's too small. It just doesn't make sense yet. But I think there is upside for sure. But I think it's going to require really creative things, and you're going to have to go into it thinking like the very first iPhone apps, where do you remember that iPhone app that was I can't remember the name of it, but it was $5,000 or something. And all it was when you paid $5,000, you had like a jewel on your phone to show people that you bought, and it was like the dumbest thing in the world. But it was like a good publicity stunt. Everyone heard about this thing, and they sold, 50 of these apps or whatever. And it makes no sense now, but back then we're like, oh, is this what this will become? And I feel like this is a similar moment of like, there's going to be a bunch of new stuff. A lot of it's going to be crazy. A lot of it's going to be where it's not going to make sense. And there'll probably be something really simple that looks like a game to start that ultimately ends up, being the metaverse Twitter, being the next like way that people spend time. I don't know what it will be, but there will be something like that. And then eventually, once that thing's at scale, 5 years from now, we'll all be, spending time in it and advertising in it or whatever we do.
But we'll have,
Awesome.
we'll have a new set of jobs though, right? Metaverse lawyers, metaverse designers, metaverse marketers, like whole new opportunity for new jobs.
Whew. All right. Wow. Well, sadly, you have to like bring this session to a close. But Chris, Lynne, Assaf, thank you so much. You've actually given me a lot to think about here too. I'm sure folks who are listening in or reading the transcript of this as well too. So thank you for the time, and I guess I'll see you in one of the multiverse metaverses soon.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Scott.
Thanks, Scott.